I'm Ty, and I'm going off script with Brandon Block, a British DJ who was instrumental to the dance music scene in the UK and in Ibiza.
Every human's an addict. It's part of our nature. My life was ruined, my health was ruined. I'd got to rock bottom and worse. He said, if you walk out of it, he said, I can't guarantee how long you'll live. I had this moment, a click went in my head. I'd let go of the fear of living without drugs. As soon as I let go of that fear, I was able to go and find help. And I never relapsed. I never went back. I took so many risks with my life. Didn't have fear of death, did I? Because I was risking it in every day. I was sort of waiting for it to happen. That's what my mindset was like.
The legendary Brandon Block. Thanks for coming on the show.
Ty, what a pleasure, mate. And thank you. I know I've only been down there a few months, but when we first met, I know we have similar interests, and it was great. Funny, I met you at the football, didn't I, first time? Was it Euros, wasn't it?
Yeah, Euros. Yeah.
So, no, I really appreciate coming on. I know you're very passionate about what you do, mate, and it's I love all that stuff. So,
thank you.
Happy to be here, mate. Really.
Thank you. I've got so much I want to talk to you about, but let's start with the usual bits. Let's go back to the early years.
Yeah.
I know you were London born.
East London, Hackney, yeah.
Hackney?
Yeah, man. Actually, I was in Clapton.
We used to live in Hackney as a kid.
Did you?
Yeah, Hackney, Walthamstow, Islington, Dalston,
Wow, yeah,
Green Lanes, Haringey, Wood Green, all around there.
Well,
where all the Turks and Kurds used to be years ago.
Yeah, that's right. So Green Lanes, I know very well, Wood Green and that. So I was born in Clapton, which is East 5, which is a part of Hackney.
Yeah.
And it used to be called Murder Mile, because that's...
I know. My
Murder
dad
Mile.
knows
So,
that. Yeah.
I was born in the Salvation Army Mothers Hospital, which was a very famous hospital back there in the East End.
Yeah.
I then went to live in Stamford Hill, which is, Stoke Newington.
Yeah.
And then moved, when we moved as a family to Wembley back in 1970-ish.
Yeah.
And I did most of my growing up in Wembley, actually. So we moved around Wembley a couple of times. My parents got divorced, and that was... I think I've only come to realise that was a big impact on me. How old were you there, Brendan, when they got divorced? I'll tell you a couple of things, a story about that, which is probably... And I'm not like... Look, I know what we're talking about, and where we get to at the end of this podcast is about us and how we manage ourselves. But I'm sure people are aware of trauma, and it's all talked about now, and what your childhood impacts on how it maps your future and stuff. And I wasn't aware of any of that until much later in my life. Look, sort of the last 10 years or so. So they got divorced when I was about 12, and at the time I was like the only Jewish kid in the state school, and at the time I'm not religious, and I'm not. And I don't think it affected me because I'm quite resilient, as you know. Yeah. I made lots of friends, and I'm really fortunate to have all my friends still from back in the day. But I think at the time, there was a bit of bullying, but it wasn't with malice. I think people just back in them days, in 40 years ago, 45 years ago, it was just something that that person is a whatever.
It sounds really bad, but the boundaries were a lot more blurred in those days, weren't they?
Cool, totally. I mean, and there was no backstory to why we would call people or the racism and all that stuff. It wasn't as apparent. So I suppose you just go, oh, that's a bad word. I shouldn't be called that. But having said that, I wasn't as...
You didn't understand why.
Yeah, so it probably didn't have the impact that...
Yeah.
But anyway, look, so I suppose moving forward, that was... but I loved my growing up. I loved growing up.
What was childhood like? Nice, out playing around?
I cannot remember a bad thing about my childhood. I think I had...
Were you into anything? Sports,
right,
music?
so I used to play football, but then I got asthma, so it stopped me. But I played, in the Cubs, I was like top scorer for every season.
Wow.
So I did have a... but roller skating was my passion.
Wow.
And music, yeah. So the other day, I had a real good opportunity of going back and playing 40 years later at the roller disco, where I originally started skating in Harrow Leisure Centre, right? And we and my mate Ricky, who I do my radio show with now, we both used to roller skate in the same group of... we had like a roller hockey teams, street hockey teams. We used to skate in the skate park and do all the big jumps. So skate on vertical walls, backwards, sides, all the stuff, disco dancing on skates. We were really good.
Wow.
And through my radio station, My Soul, which is a very big station in London, and DAB, various other places around the country, we had got the opportunity to play DJ at the event, and I took my skates. I managed to get round without falling over, and I haven't been on them for 40 years, you know. So, and we saw some of our old mates we used to skate with, 60 years old,
Wow.
60, still skating backwards, still disco dancing, and it was like, you know, you get those experiences that take you back, and you think, oh, I'm so fond of this memory,
Nostalgic.
but you know, they really emotionally charged.
Yeah.
And we were both looking at each other and nearly in tears at the emotion of that moment. And it's very rare that those, you know, those things of your sort of growing up that, you know, well, I suppose you're not aware of it until it actually happens to you.
Yeah.
So that was a really lovely experience and really something that, you know, we valued and treasured. And, you know, seeing our old mate. And then on Sunday, I did a party in London at Heaven.
Yeah.
Called Rage, which was another massive, you know, promotion back in the day. Very early days, like 89.
Year after I was
hosted by
born.
Fabio and Groove Rider. Yeah. So, well, of course you was. How old are you now?
I was born in 88. I'm 33.
Oh my God.
So I was 1 year old then.
I was, I mean, this is how mad
What were you
it is,
doing in
isn't it?
88?
I was
Flat out.
completely off my nut. I just discovered my new world.
Okay, so you go to Wembley. Your childhood's amazing. Your memories are all cool.
Yeah.
What, you've always had a passion for music?
Yeah, pretty much. I think, look, having said that, I think because I was a little bit alienated at school and I found it hard to fit in, I made my own way.
Yep.
And for me, my pals who I made myself get involved with the older lot in like 3 years old, and I was like, you know, small little cheeky,
Yeah.
whatever, and you know, oh, I want to get in with you, like, you know, can we swear?
Yeah. Swear. Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to get in with you. So anyway, eventually it sort of took me under their wing, and there was the lunchtime discos that used to happen, right? How that managed, I don't know how they got away with that in them days. But anyway, so I must have been 12 at the time, and
What, a
67.
school disco at lunchtime?
Yeah. Would you believe that? In one of the house rooms. So it was
Wow.
yeah, but it was only for the cool if you know. So I was in the cool if you know. And these are all still my friends to this day, right? So I was 12 years old, and they took me under their wing. I went in the house room at lunchtime, Disco Northwick. I remember it because it was named after the local parks. And they were playing, and it was all people doing the robot. It was all like proper shuffle dancing, jazz funk. It was proper.
Amazing.
And I learned my trade to dance, and my love of black music, my love of dance music, my love of soul music, and dressing in appropriate fashion. We had dicky belts, soul belts, baggy jeans.
Yeah.
Mate, I loved it.
And that school was pretty mixed back then?
It was
Or not?
well, it was the local Wembley High School. There was 3 schools which were like sort of not in competition, but we used to have like, the occasional like, we're going up there, and you know the old family
the old
do
fight,
you and all that stuff.
yeah.
But Wembley High was a bit naughty, school wise even back then. So yeah, it was renowned, and it was quite fairly mixed. There was a lots of different cultural views, let's say, back then. Musically, but it was probably mostly music based back then because we. Kids, they weren't informed as much. There was no internet. There was no information like that. So it was like, I'm a skinhead. I'm a rude boy.
Yeah.
I'm a soul boy.
I'm a townie,
new
I'm a
romantic.
grunge,
Whatever.
Yeah.
You know. So there was that little cliques, but we all sort of got on. We all became friends. We all, you know, as the years transcended us, we all became one big sort of family. And I'm really, you know, I'm quite happy at the moment. It's just all this stuff. Really, I'm talking about how great it was back then, and you know,
Amazing feeling, that, isn't it?
yeah, it's lovely, man. You know, more recently I've got over a load of stuff for here.
Mm-hmm. We'll touch on that.
Yeah, definitely, 1,000,000%. We'll talk about all that
How did
stuff.
you get into DJing? Why did you get into DJing? Was there a catalyst moment or person that made you become a...
Yes, so here, right. So after all this, like, so I've got to find my way in school and who I'm going to hang out with, and I found my passion, my music, my soul brothers, let's say.
Yeah.
Moving forward, seems the natural progression was someone who's not completely immersed in their schoolwork, which is me. All that stuff about ADHD, we've all got ADHD, right? And you know, even you look at school reports. from back in the day, back when I was in infant school, could do better if only they concentrated. If only
Same as me.
If only they concentrated. Well, it's boring.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
I used to say to my dad, Ali, he's very intelligent. He just doesn't bother. He doesn't concentrate.
Exactly. But it's not bothering. It's just the world's more interesting than sitting and reading. I get it, but I know
it's not for everyone, is it? The system.
No, it's, look, I mean, even more now, the distractions are incredible. How the young are supposed to study like intently. It escapes me, and my hat's off to them for doing it, because I think, with these bits of technology which we carry and rely on, the world's in your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, why are you not going to be interested in, and this is the whole thing. I was talking to somebody the other day about distraction, and that's how we are. We'll talk more about that, because it's something you've got to really be mindful of.
I read something the other day that said our attention spans have gone down to like something silly, like was it 7 or 9 seconds?
It's probably
now.
even more than that.
Because I think of myself, if I'm on an Instagram reel and I'm going through, I genuinely, it's quite frightening, but it's probably 3-4 seconds and I'm ready to swipe to watch the next video.
See, people who market this technology they know about the mind. So they know we need stimulating. It goes back to addiction. Fundamental instinctual behaviours of humans, we want stimulations. We want quick fixes, which is instant gratification, which is why drugs and alcohol generally tend to work, or chocolate or sex or whatever else. And because it's become available pretty much at the touch of a button, like shopping, Amazon, eBay, touch, there I am, happy, gratified. I've got my new trainers, or I've got my,
And it's there the next morning.
They're even better. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, I'm excited. When's that box coming? When's it, what's the world coming to, man? What's wrong with sitting down and enjoying what's around you? This is why, I took Facebook off my phone just after the first lockdown. No, before it, in fact, literally that week.
Yeah.
Because I thought I'm going to be, I'll get involved in this.
Yeah.
And I can see it being every day, like, what's going on in the world? And I thought, oh my God, I can't. I know I don't want to be part of that. And I've not put it back on. And I found that all I need to do is occasionally post some gigs. Obviously, my interaction's gone locked down. But even on Insta, if I do a post, I've got that on my phone because I've been told it's good for business, which is fine. And I like to let people, look, I get promoters need you to share their, the gigs and stuff, which I do. And, and occasionally I might do a live, but I've got to have something to say. I don't want to be one of these people who just go randomly every day saying, this is my life and you're welcome to it. And,
you want to add value.
Yeah, because for me, if you're living someone else's life, being that great saying, the authentic you. You're aspiring to be someone else all the time. So how can you then be, this is the real me? You don't know the real you, because if you pick your phone up first thing in the morning, you think, right, I'm looking at Insta. Oh, I need to look like that today. I need them clothes. I need that. That whole...
it's that comparison piece, isn't it?
It's totally comparison and comparing myself. But, am I good enough? Comparing. And expectations. I'm expected to be like this because this is how the world perceives it. We'll talk more about that later. So it's a huge subject, but yeah. So back to where was we? We got sidetracked.
DJing. How did you get into DJing?
DJing. So I love music. So I love music. So
that's how you fitted in school, right? You were saying?
Well, yeah, sort of. But also but then moving forward from out of school and being misbehaving, the next natural progression was the pub, which was my local called the John Lyon, which we loved. And there was a little room at the back which had a DJ, and it was like a little disco room in the pub.
Yeah.
But properly built, like a lights, proper function room for DJs. Anyway, so me and my pals at the time, we were all dancers. We all go and have pub life was our growing up in the 80s. And met with the manager at the time, Ben. Obviously, our pubs were our life. That was our social life. That was our social network. So we knew it was our family. He said, right, the DJs let me down tonight. Can you go and get your records? I know you buy your imports every week or your music every week. So me and my pals went, yeah, come on, we had milk crates. So we went home, we carried our milk crates down the road about a mile to come back and do the gig, put our milk crates down. They had the 2 decks, they're called Garrards, they were, turntable, like Citronics, but earlier versions. Belt-driven decks, right? So they'd have to speed up to get in the speed. So, beat mixing was difficult. The easiest way to describe it was it's bloody hard. And anyway, obviously, all the lads, everyone was in a pub. We knew everyone. We were playing music they wanted to hear, cheering, shouting. Everyone became ecstatic, let's say. And he said, right, well, I might as well get rid of the other fella.
No way.
Yeah. So, and that was it. So it was me, 3 of us, me, Ali, and Lee. Ali's my best mate still to this day. And Lee, unfortunately, I've lost touch with, but I know he's around somewhere. And yeah, so we then invested in Ali bought a van because was on the back of that, the pub group started asking us to go and DJ at other pubs around London.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, we had to buy a van. So we bought a comma van, an old BT yellow van. He bought that. I went to Tandy and bought the first experience of hire purchase, which is easy. Oh, I can have it for nothing. Great idea. Here's another one. We'll rope them into that and interest payments and all that. So I bought decks, mixer, amp, and we had some lights, and we used to just go around these other pubs and play records. It was absolutely fantastic. And so that was my DJing, and then we continued to get busier. And that was between, like, say, 16, 17, maybe 18. And then on the back of that, me and the lads used to, the older lot still, because we're all in the pubs now, and we're like you would call them the under 5s. We're the
under 5s. I like it.
I think it's West Ham, actually. West Ham had a group for the lads called the under 5. Anyway, so it's the younger lot. And we used to go up to a club in town called Hombres in the West End, right? And it was just wonderful. My mate still DJs now, I think, just open, Johnny Norman. Anyway, I actually ended up playing there. Somewhere I used to go as a kid, but later on in life played there a few times, which was incredible. But we used to go on Braves, and then on the back of that, my transition into, say, club DJing, was me putting myself out there again and driving promoters mad. I can play. I love my house music, blah blah blah, and I got gigs, but then obviously, alongside house music came certain other things which were very Moorish, let's say.
So how old would you say when you turned from that sort of pub DJ to the club DJ?
Well, I think my first outing as a club DJ was probably 88.
88, year I was born.
Yeah. So marked memorably. What date's your birthday?
May the 19th.
May the 19th. What's that? I don't know what birthday I'm into it. Taurus, yeah, that's right. Because my missus is May the 9th. And my daughter's May the 12th. They're all Taurus. Wow. Yeah. I'm a fish.
Because you and your DJ business partner, Alex P.
Well, we weren't business partners. We DJed together a lot. I'll tell you more about our story of Alex because it's actually quite funny how we met.
Because every time I speak to like Tim and Turk about you, they're like, mate, those guys like launched and built the terrace at Space in Ibiza. They're legends. They've done this. They've done that. They've got a lot to answer for the UK dance scene. So, I mean, how do you end up from a kid in a pub in Wembley to launching the terrace at Space, which is arguably one of the best, was one of the best clubs in the world?
Yeah. So look, that whole the drug club scene sort of opened a lot of doors. It brought look. We know the impact of it now, and we didn't know that then. And if we'd had that information back then, hopefully we probably would have taken it a bit easier. But I think, there was a lot of things going on in the world, culturally, socially, we was escaping again. Like we like to do, you get away from the run of the mill sort of stuff. And this gave us our opportunity. And clubs come up every night of the week. It wasn't like weekends. There was someone putting a promotion on every night, and that happened really quick. From 88, it started like within 2 months of like Spectrum and Shum and Future and Loud Noise, which were really key club, Hacienda and stuff in Leeds and all that stuff in Newcastle, and basically countrywide and Bournemouth, Madison's. I mean, I used to come down here and DJ way back when, and I think James was
Madison's. Was that the one above? Was that Madding Crowd now above Pret?
It's in the. It's just
Yes. It's just Pret now, the sandwich shop.
Yes,
So
on the front bit. You come by the pavilion, you go round there, it's up there. So
yeah.
I think James was here as well, and obviously the Manor. God rest his soul, by the way. My very good friend James Bronson. I'm sure you all know. But anyway, So within a real quick time from those big clubs starting right around the country, everyone wanted to go out every night, bloody week, because it was fun and it was something escaping, and we made a new community, and no one was no fighting anymore. No one wanted to fight, and that was down to ecstasy. I'm not sure, it probably was, but even on the football terraces, there was no fighting. Everyone used to gather together in nightclubs, hug each other, and had a common interest, and it was the music and the feeling. That
was the era of ecstasy, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like the recreation of Summer of Love. That was definitely the first. So
you. I'm going to ask you, when did you take your first?
Right, so here's the story. Way back when, I got given a joint when I was 13 years old, would you believe? And back then,
wow.
Yeah, and it was given to me by a family member. I won't say who, but it was from a thing called Sensimedia. And Sensimedia back then was like the strongest grass, or weed, let's say. And me and my cousin, who was younger than me, a year younger than me, 12, I think it was 13, was I 13, 14? Anyway, young, not the age you want to be puffing the strongest.
No.
Ever. So unbeknown to us, I mean, my mates used to do it as well. So I realised, a bit of peer pressure. They're all puffing, blah blah blah. In the hot hatches, we had a whole lot of hot hatches as well.
I love that.
Oh yeah, man, Sunbeam.
Hot boxing it.
Yeah, there was something. I had a Sunbeam Lotus Escort Mexico Mark 1 Escort Mexico, Lotus Escort, Lotus Cortinas. Oh my God, RS 1800, RS 2000s, the XR3 1600 RSs. Oh mate, it was fantastic. So anyway, back. So me and my cousin smoked this joint. My God, we had a thing called a whitey.
Yeah.
So ill. I've never been as ill in my life. And we turned up to this under 18s disco where we were meant to be going, and their bouncers were saying, "Where are you doing? Go home. You ain't coming in here looking like that." We were like ghosts. Honestly, we looked so ill. So that was my first experience, and that sort of put me off forever. So I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was my mates, there was a warehouse party in '88, and I remember I said, "Look, I love the music. I don't mind my house music. I bought, an acid house and all that. I don't think I fancy going to this place." I was quite anti-drugs, to be honest. No. They came back one night and they went, "Oh, the bells. And the bells turned out to be a Balearic record, which was produced by Paul Oakenfold, called Dance with the Devil. And in the middle of this record, it goes, ding, 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 ding. And it's like those, like church bells ringing, but, like a bit like Insomnia, Faithless. But like a ding, 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 but quite
they become
eerie.
Iconic.
Yeah, but right eerie. And that was the thing they were talking about. So they're all off their heads, obviously. And then the bells come on. And it was like, what it did was heighten certain moments. And that's why the music became so important, because, and like the big breakdowns and big vocals and big pianos, it was all about evoking those emotions, which it did. So on the back of that, they said, "Oh, come on, you got to." So I went to a mate's party and I thought, you know what, I can't be sat here not, doing what they're doing. So I tried half a little thing back then, and I ended up, I think I was the last one to leave, and I was dancing on the shed in their garden for the next afternoon on my own.
Stroking the furry wall.
Oh, mate. So, that was, and I think from literally, that was me. I went and bought the T-shirt.
And then just flat out for...
Pretty much. And then I thought, I've got to play this music. I've got to play in clubs. And then I knew promoters, because obviously we'd been around, our area was quite, we were quite clubby, let's say. So I knew some of the promoters putting like acid nail sites on, and one of them was Ealing, where we'd go anyway and dance, because we were all good dancers. And I said to him, let me play. And I ended up selling tickets for the first Sunrise party, which was a big mystery tour. And I ended up DJing at the next one. And then I just put myself about a bit. And I think, without being in the right place at the right time was also a big part of it. Because people ask me now about how do I make it as a DJ.
So you've spent now years and years in that scene, right?
Yeah.
You're DJing, you're drinking, you're drugging, you're partying. That scene obviously was huge. Would you admit now that you probably had an addiction then?
Oh, God, mate. Listen, I've never said, look, what?
Because at the time...
I wouldn't have known anything. You wouldn't. We didn't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, I was addicted.
No one knows at the time.
I was addicted to certain substances. Of course, I was. I wasn't. But you see, cocaine was my drug of choice. They call it, right?
Yep.
And I was so massively addicted to this. And I wasn't.
What, like daytime?
All day, every day.
Yeah.
All day, every day. It was horrendous. An existence, mate. Even my pals went, I don't know how he does it. My doctor, my mentor, psychiatrist, is quoted in my book saying, I've never met anyone who could take so much cocaine and still stand up.
Wow.
He gave me 2 weeks to live when I went to see him eventually.
So I was going to ask you about this. I saw something that says you obviously were flat out and you got to a period in your life where you've got a bit unwell.
Very
and
unwell.
the doctors they said to you, if you don't change your life, you have 2 weeks left to live. Is that right?
Pretty much. So basically, I took so many risks with my life, which is, and if you listen to this podcast, it's nothing, don't try this at home, and I really mean that. It was, I was in a, what's the word? I was in a death roll. I was ready to go. I sort of...
accepted?
Yeah, I'd accept, because I'd realised that not only could I'll tell you, it becomes more, let's say, understandable when I tell you about the epiphany moment, let's say. So I got very ill. I got TB, which I had removed from my lungs. So I've had a lung operation, which removed something. That was down to my mental... risk taking. I dived off the ferry in Hong Kong Harbour into the dirtiest water in the world, next to the nuclear reactor plant. Out of the ferry. You're not meant. It's illegal to. You don't want to be doing that ever. It's filthy.
So that TB is not just from drugs. That's a mixture of lifestyle, drugs.
Well, obviously, I mean, my immune system was so ruined from drugs and whatever that I was unable to. But people catch TB anyway.
Yeah, of course.
It's quite communicable now. It's a communicable disease. But back then, that's what it did to me, and it was they called it atypical because it wasn't anything from here, because it was a weird strain, so it was hard to treat. And then on top of that, I had hepatitis C, which I've cured, and I cured myself many years ago, luckily, which is a big. And I'll tell you more about it because I work with the Hep C Trust, and it's something we want to get out there. Mm-hmm. So before we get to the bad bit about the 2 weeks to live, okay. So look. Someone asked me last night, do I have any regrets? And I said, the only regret I have is making myself so ill, I think. Because I don't, but having said that, I'm here today, and I mean, who knows? Who knows what would have happened, or who knows how it would have panned out. But anyway, so look, my DJing was incredible. I was very, very grateful and very, very fortunate to have been around at a time when the music scene was evolving. The DJs were they were pop stars. They were producing music, getting chart hits, all that, and that's what was happening. So they were becoming pop stars. I was on top of the pops in 19. I know, mate. Oh, God, I was talking about this the other day. What an achievement to be on top of the bloody pops, man. That was our program going up for us, Even
I remember that.
So TOTP, mate. So. We're becoming we're becoming famous. Famous is another bloody thing that people struggle with. Fame. So we're becoming famous. We're becoming, household names and pop stars and all this stuff. And it was the celebrity lifestyle, I suppose, really. However, I didn't think of it like that. I never thought of myself as being that celebrity type person. I don't know why. I just didn't. I just thought I like playing my music. I like getting out of my head, and I like partying, and I like being around people having fun, which all seemed to work. It just so happens my partying took me to the place we just spoke about. So anyway, I'd become to get into a couple of residencies now because I'd started DJing, and I was doing good. Thank God, touch wood. I was really, and I was thriving at this. So the guys who were promoting got these other 2 clubs starting up, so I ended up being the resident there, which actually probably became quite detrimental because it meant I had no option to stay up Saturday night all night and go Sunday morning and then Sunday night. So it added to my partying, but in hindsight, probably not the wisest health choice. But So Alex came in. I was resident, but I used to run the lunchtime club, and they used to go out and party and then come back for the evening session. They used to have like a clean up. So I'd be resident. I'd run my own club in the day and then come back in the evening. So they used to get residents because by the time the evening come, I was a bit worse for wear. You can imagine. So I was in the greatest DJing space. I used to be, hey. Anyway, Alex come in. And he was telling a story slightly differently, but he was DJing. He was been invited to come guest slot. And all of a sudden, he hears a commotion. I'm walking in with my back of records held above the crowd. And everyone's going, hey, Bloggo. Anyway, I get to the decks. I pour a load of gear on it, and I line it up while it's turning and say, how'd you do? I'm Brandon Block. And he had to get rid of this before it ended the record. So that was our introduction.
So you're like a real-life eyeball Paul, were you? From Kevin and Perry?
That film was based... No, the other one, Pete Tong, was based on me. Loosely based around me.
Really?
Yeah, we went... When they were making that film, they invited myself and Alex to go because they wanted to get our input and said, the character's loosely based around you, Brandon. That's, that was Paul Kay playing because you went deaf, but... Because I got tinnitus many, many years ago. But also the drug intake. What was it called again? Oh, God.
Kevin and Perry Go Live.
Yeah, Kevin and Perry Go Live. That was, obviously, it's a tall Paul, isn't it? And the rest of them was all that. We filmed that in Ibiza. We was at Amnesia when they were filming because they asked us to go along, obviously. Yeah. I met Harry Enfield on the train. He went, oh, and I went, because we talked about the film, because I didn't get to say hello to him when he was there filming, but we talked about the film afterwards. He goes, oh, God, mate, how mad was that? I go, yeah. And Kathy Burke, we had a night out with him because we went to the premiere, myself and Alex.
Wow. So
I had a night out with Kathy Burke and Harry Enfield that night.
Love it. Story for another time.
She's so funny, man. Anyway, so all right, so that's how we met Alex. Anyway, so and then the next thing was so obviously 1990. I'm with Charlie Chester. I've created Flying Records with Charlie Chester and Dean Thatcher. Flying Records took off massively. It was like one of the hugest club nights available. And I went to Ibiza with Charlie on a reconnaissance mission. He did this trip, the first sort of, let's say, pilgrimage. Lots of English people going to Ibiza on a, taking Primal Scream, Andy Weatherall, all the cool DJs. And I went out there to do the reconnaissance mission with him, and he never took me out as a DJ.
No,
I'm telling you, I've always had that against him. So and then he sort of ousted me out of flying somewhere because I wasn't cool and trendy. I was sort of out there, Yeah. So flying, and then on the back of that, I went to Ibiza on my own with my best mate Baggy, God rest his soul. He took his own life 2 years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
I know, mate. This is another thing we've got to talk about quickly because I wouldn't have known. He had a cast iron mind. He was like my sparring partner for years, and he was never affected by anything until you don't know.
So you thought, yeah.
Sorry, mate. It gets me a bit.
That's right. Take your time.
We were that close. Bastard. I had to go and see him in the morning. His missus called me and said he's hung himself. I went, what? And I went round. He's laying on the floor. He's got a rope around his neck, and I'm like,
how old was he, man?
This was like 2 years ago, mate.
Wow. So it's still
on
quite
New Year's Day 2020. I remember him, and I just thought he's going to get up in a minute, and so I'm winding you up. I mean, he didn't. Anyway, so me and him went to Ibiza, right? We created havoc everywhere, right? Me and him were trouble, but fun trouble.
Yeah.
So anyway, Alex, we'd stay in this apartment block. Turns out Alex's best mate was staying next door to us on the same balcony. He said, oh, you're Brandon. Alex is looking for you. I went, oh, yeah. Heard you're on the island, blah, blah. This is 1990. 91? 1990. I think it's 1990, latter part of the summer. Anyway, so... Or maybe 91. I'm not sure. He goes, Alex is looking for you. I said, okay, well, we're here, haven't we? So me and my baggy been out. We went out the first night. We see Nicky Holloway and all that because they had the milk bar. So we went and we did our first reconnaissance mission and got absolutely well hammered. So we'd made it back to our apartment. We were boiling eggs in the kettle and everything because we didn't have any food. And then get a knock on the door. Alex is drunk as a lord. He'd been out all night. And this is a hilarious story. He'd come out of Pasha, right? Yeah. Tripping. And needed to get back to San Antonio because Pasha's in Ibiza town, right?
That's right, yeah.
So what possessed you? But it's incredible story. So there's the passenger bus, the bus station used to be across the road from Pasha, right?
I know the one. I know exactly what you mean.
So the driver had obviously gone to the toilet, and there's a bus full of passengers.
No.
So he's jumped on and drove this bus. Driven this bus
Full of passengers.
Full of passengers. And can you imagine that? You know the picture on the train where you sort of look at your stops going past when you missed it? Yeah. He's driving straight past every bus stop and they're all going, how do I get home? Can you imagine? He's parked up in San Ann and driven it into the bus garage, but parked it in a wall sort of thing. So obviously the Guardia Civil had found him and they'd beaten him up and whatever in the night, and he'd come out of the cell still smashed. And he came to our apartment and started swearing and this, that and the other, and he was bruised. And anyway, so he... that's one of the folklore stories from Ibiza, nicking the bus. You know, what a story.
So good.
Anyway, he said to me, look, come to Space tomorrow, my club, I've just opened it this year. It's lovely on a Sunday. He said, everyone's starting to come. It's lovely. I want you to come DJ with me. I said, all right, sweet. So I'd obviously gone over to IB for the plan of staying. I've got my 10 boxes of records.
Yeah.
Get a cab in the morning. First thing, me and Baggy, records loaded up. I've walked in. I've gone, oh my God, look at this place. Incredible. And all our pals from London, all our pals from you we'd met already. And it was just like, oh, mate, open air.
Amazing.
We'd never had an open air club ever. It was the first one in the world. There's no such thing as an after hour. Space created it.
Yeah.
And it was Alex's idea and Fort and James to think about doing the outside, because there was a clause in the license. Cafe Concerto license means you can have a restaurant and bar until certain times in the morning. You have to shut for an hour.
Yeah. I remember from when the closing party of Space, they had to shut for like a minute or something, whatever it was.
They had to have a gap in the trading. So Pepe's idea was that he'd shut for the hour, and then like 6 o'clock in the morning, he'd open the inside, which is dark, and obviously the space, there was only 2 rooms, only the terrace, the outdoor terrace, and the inside. Yeah. And the inside was dark, and it was like LEDs in the ceiling, and that was it. And it was full-on techno, Valentian techno, and you know, all that stuff. So you'd go in there, really quite powerful. And then outside was the fluffy sunlight, open air, and they wouldn't start the terrace until 10 musically, because there was obviously inside people still partying. But people would be sitting there waiting for the terrace to start. They'd be sitting on the chairs outside and going, oh, come on, get the music on YouTube, come on. And we'd be like, no, we can't. So, you know, and then as soon as that started, the first record would go, mate. And it was the most incredible club of just music. I've been a few times, but only in the later years. Yeah.
So
when they built the glass around the terrace, it sort of, for me, took away the actual, you know, the feeling, because that terrace was now blocked in. There was the open air Sunset Terrace. The other side was covered. All those buildings upstairs, none of that existed. It was all built afterwards. So it was literally inside, which would be the...
What room would that be?
So you know there's 2 entrances, isn't there? So the left entrance on the left of the building on the front, there's one on the right. I think the VIP's right now. So that would be the new terrace on the right.
Yes.
Closed in. That entrance on the left would be the original entrance into Space. So you'd go in there, it'd be a turnstile, you'd go in there and you'd go straight in, and that would be the dark one.
Wow.
And then you'd come out the same door and turn left, which would be the open terrace. And that's all it was. But yeah, what an experience. And that was just incredible.
What an incredible club that was.
Oh, man.
We all went over, I think there's about 120 or 130 of us from Bournemouth, Southampton, with Gary and Kiri and Turk and everyone. We went over for the closing party.
Oh, you was there for closing?
Yeah, we were there,
me and Alex played in the
yeah. But the problem was we went in, it was so busy.
Crowded.
Like they'd obviously oversold it naturally to try and have one last hurrah. And we only ended up staying in there for an hour, which is a shame. But
yeah, well,
some of the guys were crawling in like 70 hours later.
It was too packed.
Yeah, it was too busy.
You know, I mean, we had a bit of a fall.
Almost felt a bit unstable in there that night.
Yeah,
unsafe.
I get that. We were back, sort of in that back bit, walking through, and I had the right ump actually, because, you know, Pepe sort of half ignored me and Alex, and I was like, how dare you treat us like, because Carl was there. And I love Carl to bits, and, you know, we asked Carl to come and DJ in Space, you know, years ago, and he started playing inside, because he became like, you know, he had his own, he started having his own night, but, you know, Lynn got that sorted out, and it was down to, you know, Carl, we asked Carl to come and play. Every DJ had to ask me and Alex to come, and, you know, Dave Morale, everyone who'd come to Space, can we come play Space? Yeah, of course you can. Sasha, Morale, all the people, and, you know, Pepe because they were huge elsewhere, they'd end up getting their nights given to them and all that. So, you know, we helped that along. It was great. Anyway, so look, so Ibiza was fantastic until 96 when I started getting ill. The illnesses were, you know, I've obviously been to Hong Kong in 95. I was ill. I wasn't unaware of what I was ill with because I was just, you know, losing weight rapidly and, you know, carried on with my behaviours, drinking, drugging and all that. And it got to a stage where I could hardly walk because I was so physically unwell. And they said, look, you got to go home.
And how old are you now?
So 96, that would have been. So it's summer of 96. So I would have been, what, 29?
Wow. So
29?
Young.
29?
Very young.
Yeah. 29. Yeah, I partied, mate. I mean, this is, my legacy continues now.
So,
you know.
No, I know. So let me just try and get my head around this. So you're 29 years old.
And I've had my bit.
You're on top of the world, effectively.
Yes.
And you've DJ'd, you've partied, you've experienced. And what's the first thing that comes into your head when someone stood across the room and said, you've got 2 weeks left to live if you don't change your life?
So basically, I was told to leave Ibiza in 96 by many of my friends. Said, look, you just look so unwell. You got to go home. We can't watch you doing it. And I was constant, mate. There was no letting up. Everywhere I went, it was like, I was on it. No sleeping, no nothing. It was like a proper horrible when I think about it now because I'm surprised what I did to myself. But, you know, so I ended up coming home. I ended up going to the hospital saying, look, I've got these pains and all that. They said, right, you've got to go straight into isolation, which I did. I didn't stop then. I got people to bring me stuff in, cut holes in the gloves for isolation ward and slide.
Wow.
Yeah, slide drugs through to me. That's terrible. And like, you know, I'm sitting in this room on my own, wired, in isolation. Wow, how mad. No one to talk to, just there, wired. That's how, because I was so used to it. It's called an altered state. I'd altered my brain chemistry to function. But because it's a stimulant, it's quite constant. It's like being Tron.
Yeah.
Like an electric man. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Anyway, so I had this epiphany. I was in the hospital again when I came out because I didn't stop then. They were giving me, I was taking like medication for my illnesses on top of everything else. And I was bombarded with chemicals. Like literally my liver was giving up on me, everything. So I was sitting in the hospital once again, waiting for the next lot of painkillers, and I had this moment. A click went in my head, and I realised now what it was. It was I'd accepted, or I'd let go of the fear of living without drugs.
Okay,
right, because that's what held me in the place, giving up the fear of the unknown of what was going to be like without it, and I let go of that fear. As soon as I let go of that fear, I was able to go and find help, and that's what I did.
Rehab?
Not rehab, detox of 3 weeks. Rehab, I didn't need rehabilitating. I needed to stop doing. My life was ruined. My health was ruined. But my doctor, who's my mentor to this day, still, you know, and I see he recommends people to me now. He's the head psychiatrist at the Priory.
Wow. Okay.
Right, and also was the head of Chelsea and Westminster. His name's William Shanahan. He saved my life. And he, to this day, is still my mentor. When I started working in the mental health field, he became my case manager. He said, so look, you bring him to me and I'll talk you through the cases. I said, you know, that's something for someone who's at the head of his game. And his game is addiction. He studied it. Anyway, so, and he recommends people to me now who I support. And we've got a group at the moment who are doing really, really well, which is fantastic. And it's just about the support and interventions and give them some suggestions if they come into trouble. So moving back, I went to the detox for 3 weeks, and and to this day, which is 96, I had 2 slips, and slip is like literally a minute amount. It's a slip up, what people call it. And I never relapsed. I never went back. So I came out from taking the vast amounts on a daily basis, and I stopped.
Huge respect.
And I stopped, and I'd had enough, mate. I'd got to rock bottom and worse. I dug a hole in the bottom of rock bottom and climbed into it. And I was literally, as I said, when I went to see him in Harley Street, he said, if you walk out of it, he said, I can't guarantee how long you'll live. He said, I could well take the next line could be your
last.
You know, your last. So I can save your life. And if you come in here ASAP.
The fear of death slow you down?
I didn't have fear of death, did I? Because I was risking it every day. I was sort of waiting for it to happen. I thought, I'm not going to stop this because I'm too scared to find out what it's like without it. So I'll just wait for it to happen. That's what my mindset was like.
Do you think some of that addiction came from trying to deal with the fame?
Oh, no, I don't think I had a problem dealing with fame. The problems I didn't have problems dealing with fame. I let go of the fame. I actually didn't want to be famous anymore. I wanted the boundaries in my life. I don't want to be that. You know, that's when I went on Celebrity Big Brother. I found it hard because I didn't know who I was going to be at the time. They wanted Brandon the Nutter. He weren't here anymore.
Yeah.
I've been working in the NHS with people who've got real issues in their life, and I've been doing intense work one-to-one in people's houses of people who are really chaotic and really caught up in that whirlwind of, you know, deep entrenched addiction and I go into Big Brother and they want me to be drunk and you know, I wasn't going to do it on telly, and I just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be
that Brandon.
I'm not that. I'm this one now. I'm happy to be in this one. I like helping people. I don't want to be the one out there doing it for the wrong reasons, possibly, which is why I struggled. And also, I had burnout. So I was also mentally unstable at the time.
Yeah.
Wasn't the best environment. I loved the experience and I loved being offered to do it. And, you know, it gave me, when I came out of it, I felt empty emotionally. And that's when I got the moment of, right, I've got to do something I've got to get myself well again. I feel drained, man. So I went to a Tony Robbins event, which
amazing,
which UPW, which is great. I met some great friends there. I get it. I love the whole, you know, power, together, unity. I just found go to the back of the room and sign up for, you know.
Well, it's American, isn't it? It's very.
I just found that
their
really,
energy is very different to us Brits.
Yes, and I found that difficult to swallow because if I'm vulnerable, and I mean, look, I know about goal setting. I know about setting targets and trying to achieve them, and when your mindset isn't great, and we often do set goals from a negative place because we think, I'm overweight, I'm unhappy, I've got these on my boat, so I'm going to set goals, and when you don't achieve them, you get even worse.
Well, goals are a funny one. I did this talk about this the other day about goals and processes.
Yeah,
we're this narrative at the moment about setting goals. I don't actually find them that helpful because, and this is my reason why, if you set a goal, you're almost set up to lose in a way. And I'll explain what I mean by that. If you achieve that goal, you're like, what's next?
Yes.
It feels flat. If you don't achieve that goal, you experience failure.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get your processes right in your day-to-day life,
you won't need.
You live in that sort of constant state of
achieving.
Yes.
Because if you, totally, I get it. Because I did this program called goal mapping. I'm a goal mapping practitioner. It's life coaching, but with this model called goal mapping, I really found it helpful because, like, you know, as humans, we don't do well with demands. Like when we were a kid, you go, don't do that. You go, fuck, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, first thing you do,
Of course. So even that carries through our inner child to later in life. You must do this. You must do this. You must do this. Some of them, yes, I get. I must, I must pay the rent, ideally. I must, you know, look after my children or whatever, you know, those sort of musts. But a lot of them are like the demands of the environment, demands and expectations
society.
Of what we live in, society. Why?
Yeah.
Who the are you telling to do?
Yeah,
you know, you go the other way.
Yeah. At what
so
cost?
Smart goals are demands. They are lists of orders which are saying, right, you must achieve this weight by this time, blah, blah. Here's how you. So goal mapping uses pictures, drawings, the creative side. So if you draw a picture, it then gives you, it works. I love it because it's not demanding. You do it under your own pace and you look at the pictures, it makes it passionate. So if you see a picture of a Lamborghini like we all did in the Cannonball Run and go, I want a Lamborghini when I'm I'm able to afford one, a black Lamborghini Countach, right? You got it on the wall. Vision boards. You put it up there, but your mind goes, oh, I want that. How do I get to it? So the goal mapping gives you a route. So it'll give you a mapped out route where you've done yourself so you know who to call when, what plans to make, and it will lead you to your vision.
Yeah.
So this is why it works.
I like that because ultimately it's like
creative.
when people say manifest it. It's all good manifesting something, but if you don't actually work towards it, if everything you're doing isn't bringing you one step closer, then you can manifest all you want.
Yeah, exactly. You can sit
there.
and think, I'm thinking about the house in the hills. I'm just going to think about it.
For 50 years.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to change.
And then I'll just watch someone else buy it. But
I'm with you.
With the goal mapping, and it takes you on an emotional journey, and obviously you have to look into your mind and you can meditate a bit. Not saying it's all woo-woo, but it works. And I've done goal mapping with some friends of mine. I just took them to a workshop, seminar, and they've achieved massive goals by just doing one goal map. And I recommend it so highly. And I'm going to work in the recovery game field again down here. I've got a job part-time called Recovery Navigator.
Okay.
Which means I can help people navigate to better lives. But goal mapping can be used for anything. I'd love to show you it one day, because by what you've just said and saying about setting goals, this is actually more like creating your dream board, but giving you a route to get to it. So you actually...
When I'm saying about that goal thing, that's just my experience of it.
Totally,
so some people need that, and I needed it early on in my life. Like when I was a bit younger, I needed something, but I quickly realised... Why am I feeling unhappy when I've hit my goal?
Yeah.
I couldn't work out why, because I had this thing of what's next?
You have
this
the
sort
expectations you put on yourself. If I achieve one goal, I've got to achieve the next goal and the next goal. So you probably don't have a chance to enjoy.
We don't live in the moment, do we?
No, of course not. And if you don't congratulate yourself by, like, so for instance, if my list gets done today, I'll go home and think, I've done my list today. Well done. Sit down, relax, watch Married at First Sight, it's Australia. Then you'll see people with real bloody issues. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's right. We're struggling with demands. We're struggling with expectations because they're in your hand every day. They're not like they used to be. We live in a real tough world to compete with, and we can constantly compare ourselves. I don't do that anymore. I'm just got to look at me and go, you're all right. You are all right, and fuck the rest, because what they think of you is nothing to do with you. It's their stuff. Why do we do this to ourselves? You know, and it's difficult.
It's really interesting, Brandon, because everyone I speak to about this sort of like awareness, this perspective that they've gained, it's either people that have gained it that have lived a very full life,
yes,
or they've gained it in later life.
Yeah,
but how do we get people to have this light bulb moment that you've had without having to go through what you went through? Do you see what I mean? That for me is the key for modern life, for the kids. You know, I'm going to have kids one day. I'm scared of what they're going to be growing up into.
Well, I think, you know what, mate? I think I'm not sure because I'm not completely immersed in it, but I think, and it's happening slowly because there's so many people like you, me, and all these, look, even the Americans in there, you know, these billionaires who are, you know, personal development coaches, let's say.
Yeah.
But the awareness and the people in England, all the people I've met, there's people who are, and because they use social media right. However, they get the followers and all that stuff. But there is a bit of self-gratification and a bit of fame thing, because it's giving people a platform it's giving people a voice, significance in this world, right? So people who are maybe want fame or just want to be famous for that one, but they can. They just got to get a YouTube video or an Instagram video live, and it goes viral, and then there you are. And it's letting go of that, which is a difficult one, because it spurs you on, doesn't it? You want more and more of it.
Do you ever truly believe, though, any human does anything without expecting anything back in return? Well and truly
Well,
deep
it's
down.
a tough one, because we need gratification. We need that significance. We need that recognition. And this is why, and I know every human's an addict. It's part of our nature. It's just what we get addicted to, right? It's the quick fix, and it's the covering up of what's driving us mad. It's the avoidance of, let's say, a tough life, which I get, of course. We've all had moments, and, you know, my heart goes out to people who are still struggling, but every human's an addict. It's behavioural, mate. You go to the gym religiously because you like it.
I actually said this on a podcast to someone else the other day, that I spoke to a friend that was an addict, and he said, you never really give up addiction. You change what you're addicted to.
Of course you do.
So
we humans,
I'm categorically addicted to exercise.
Of course you are.
If I get up in the morning and I haven't sweated, or that day I haven't done something to get my heart rate up going, I'm a horrible, horrible human being.
Right.
I'm snappy. I'm angry. But I get up this morning. I've got up and been for a run. I feel amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, look, I've let myself down recently. I'll be honest with you. I've found things overwhelming lately with the house move and then moving again and all that stuff, which is understandable. But again, I do dip in the sea. We know that. We do it together. Yeah. And that, for me, I feel revitalised. I want to swim a bit further, but I've got to get a wetsuit and I'm procrastinating about that. But I will, because I do love my swimming. But you're right. So it's behavioural, isn't it? So we, as humans, want to change the way we feel, because fundamentally we live in stress because of our environment. So what we find is, and this is my experience only, maybe it's other people's experience, I don't know. This is what I've worked out. So if we were continually happy, we wouldn't need anything, would we?
No.
We wouldn't need cars. We wouldn't need clothes. We wouldn't need, we would need minimal. We wouldn't be going on Amazon saying, I need new pair of trainers. I need new whatever. You wouldn't need it. You'd be, I'm just happy. I'm all right here in the present moment, not requiring anything. But then they'd go, ooh, we're not selling anything to this person. What can we send him that's going to make him log in and go, purchase? Let's see what he looks like. That's the algorithms, isn't it? So it's about... Yeah. So then what you do is you get people who are not inherently addicted by nature. Who knows? Addicted. Straight away. Children. Don't wake up with, let's say, genetic. I don't believe in that gene stuff. We are humans, man. If you like doing something, you're going to do it. If you want to go gym 12 times a week because you love exercise, you're going to go and do it. Makes you a gym addict. It's not bad for you. It's obsessive, but it's not killing you, right? Everyone does it. Well, if I like doing something, I'm going to do it. And it creates a behaviour, creates that neural pathway. So let's say the kids are not predisposed, predisposed to, let's say, addiction, right? I don't get it. I don't like the word either, because I think it's an old description of something which is a mod. Well, it's not modern. It's just a human behaviour.
Yeah.
Give a kid a mobile phone or an iPad for 2 weeks, games and everything, and then take it away. You see what the effect is. See how much they cry and crave those little notifications, the little... It's fucking mental, mate.
Yeah,
it's fucking scary, man.
Yeah.
I hate to think, like you just said, I hate to think what it'd be like. Well, we get back to what...
I'm the same, though. So we're recording this, it's an hour or whatever, and my phone's over there, and there's seconds in my mind. Obviously, my mind wanders a lot because I can't
thinking about what I do.
But I'm thinking, I'm thinking, has so-and-so, like that photo, so-and-so replied to whatever, or is that email going off, or is that thing like, it's like calling me, like the ring out of Lord of the Rings. It's like calling me over.
I know. It's mad.
It is mad.
So, listen, going back to what you were saying about, I think the awareness thing, I think there's a lot of people out there knowing this now, and they're creating the movements. They're putting stuff out there. And the thing that's good is that...
You're one of them, so respect for that.
Thank you, mate. And you too. But also, I think that information's available, which is good. So if we have to be combatant with the other, the techno companies making money, because they just want you to buy stuff, don't they?
Yeah.
So basically what you got to do is you got to try and get our kids or our children or whoever who's impacted by this towards the traffic of be aware. Have these tools anyway, so you can have the choice.
Yeah.
So you can choose what you want to watch, choose what you want to buy, choose what you want to take, choose who you want to mix with, choose who you want to look like or not. Have that choice.
I think what you said there's key, though. The issue you have, or we have, or everyone has, is you said if someone makes you feel good, you're going to want to do it, or you choose what you want. But I don't think really with social media, people have got as much free choice as they think.
Of course not.
Because it's being pushed in front of them what they should have, how they should look, what they should be doing, what car they should be driving, what clothes they should be wearing.
There you go.
So you'd argue, are you doing what makes you happy, or are you doing what makes me happy that you think you should be doing to be happy?
Totally.
Like,
it's crazy. Because you can't, if you actually sat down with someone and say, look, who's the real you?
I mean, how do you answer that?
Well, I mean, because I don't know. Because I find, let me have a look
now or 10 years ago, or
exactly.
Because
where are you now? But just say, let me just have a look and see what I should be wearing on Instagram, and then I can tell you who the real me is. The one with this clothes on, these boots on, this hairstyle.
But even if I was to say I've got Brandon Block on the podcast to 10 people, let's say ranging from 18 to 60 years old,
someone would go, who's that?
some might go, who's that? And some might only remember you for for that era that you said that you
this
were
is what's
absolutely
surprising.
reckless.
Exactly, but it's 20.
But the Brandon I've met, I've never known you in that era.
No.
The Brandon I've met is super profound, super aware, talks openly about his emotions, trying to help other people. So I obviously, when I said to Ilka now I've got Brandon thing, I found it really difficult to try and imagine that Brandon, if you know what I mean. The Brandon that you've spoken about for the last half an hour.
Well, think about this. I mean, I get it, mate. And think about this. That's 27 years ago. That's a lifetime.
Nearly my age ago. Like nearly a whole lifetime.
So that's when I went in the clinic. And yet, people still talk about it now.
Yeah.
27 years. It's like modern day Elvis.
But mate, I also think you can't beat a good story. Like as in,
well, yeah. I mean, you know, there are so many stories I forget, and then they come to me. But you know,
one I wanted to touch on. One I just wanted to touch on. The Brits, 2000.
Yes.
Very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, look, that was a moment again in it's just a moment of madness.
I had to watch it again last night just to have a refresher to remember.
It's hilarious.
Because the geezer's from the Rolling Stones, isn't he? The guy on the stage.
Yeah. So let me tell you briefly, right? So it was a bit incestuous the way that all happened. So my mate Matthew, I grew up with, who's a very, very old friend of mine. He was in the production industry. He produced, he was part of the first little trendy bar to open in London after acid sort of became, that acid house became that sort of stuff. And he was partners with Jamie Wood in a company called Outer Sanctum.
Yeah.
They used to produce the Brit Awards after party, right? So me and Matt grew up together. Matt asked me to DJ many times. I did the Brits about 3 or 4 or 5 times even maybe. And at the after party. And at that time, we were all part of Brit culture because we were DJ producing records. All the artists were on in, and we were famous then, man. So anyway, and then he said to me this one year, look, I don't need to DJ this year. I've got this new kid called Ali something. Anyway, from Capital Radio, he's going to play. Blah de blah. Sweet. I said no problem at all. At that time, I'd been. My ministry had rang me up. The Ministry of Sound said our label and said, look, we've been nominated for a Brit Awards. I said, because I had the Top of the Pops hit.
Yeah.
I said, why? He said, well, because I said, oh, great. I didn't say why. I said, great, get us a table. And they went, well, we're not going to win. I said, so what? Get us a table, you type bastards. Yeah. They went, okay, all right. So they got a table, 10 people. You got to buy the tables, obviously. Yeah. Filled with like the first.com millionaire, the head of music at Universal, Matt Jagger, my pal, very good friend of ours, head of Ministry of Sound, Mark Rodell, head of
all the big dogs.
Yeah, about the all multi. Then the other side was me, the 2 lads who were in Blockster with me, my pal, my dad, and my radio plugger, Tony Byrne, and there was this table of us, and we were all like that. So I got very, very drunk. And then in the meantime, Matthew had said, look, he's let us down. Can you do the Brits? So I went, oh, great. I'm going to be there anyway. So I took my records, put them in the DJ box where the after party was going to be. We went into the auditorium, and I proceeded to get very, very drunk, right? And on the back of that, Dane Bowers from Another Level, who's a very good friend of mine. And I think Dane's been down to do polo here with us and all that. I'm just talking to him, and he said, oh, you've won an award, Bran.
Obviously, you're off your head a bit.
Yeah, I was drunk. And I went, right, I'll go and get it. And walked. And that was it. I didn't know what award it was. Didn't know if it was really me or anything, but I walked, and I walked through the whole of the Brits. And I walked up there. It was a bit of a laugh. I thought I knew half. I knew half of what I was going to. I was sort of going, can't get me an award. If I haven't won it, I ain't won, sort of thing. So it was my moment. I got up there. Obviously, I hadn't won Best Film Soundtrack. Nothing to do with me whatsoever. And we had a little spat, me and Ronnie, but it wasn't malice. It wasn't full of malice because we didn't do anything. We didn't go. We went to the mic and bantered. Yeah. But it became, the whole place erupted. It was
an iconic moment. Wasn't it?
Yeah. So that they play it every year at the Brits. It's yeah, it was quite funny, mate. And I look at it now, and I can see my face going, when I go look up, I was like, I haven't won. I go, oh no, I can't believe I ain't won. That sort of thing.
I love it.
Mate,
I'm just cautious about time, but you've had an amazing journey, amazing life. Like,
thank you, mate.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Pleasure.
If you had to put it all into one sentence, one word, one thing of what you've learned from all of that, how would you describe that? I know it's a very tough question to answer.
Oh my God. What, you mean even with my... my journey and then where I am
everything,
now.
yeah.
What have I learned?
From everything to now, what's like the one thing? If you could, maybe let's say it a different way. If you could go back and speak to yourself at 18,
I would.
Would you carry on? Would you tell yourself carry on as you were?
I mean, look, I don't regret anything back then. As I said, I regret certain things I did to myself, but not the experience. I loved every moment of my life.
Because when you explain it, you seem there's a lot of joy in there.
Yeah, but look, I love my music. I love my friends. I've had a very, apart from the bad times, I've had a joyous life. It's become, the thing I find is when you become aware, that's when you start to struggle, because you're conscious of everything and you overthink everything, and then but it takes a while because your awareness then becomes normal. So
I literally said this last week to someone. You're actually more happy when you're ignorant.
Yes.
You're less happy when you're aware, because you start to question everything. Everything you hear of yourself, the other person.
How do I think every morning? Am I doing the right thing? Am I, I didn't meditate today. I didn't go running today. Beat myself up. It's like that. And then now you're doing it because you just think, oh, I can't be bothered, I'm not going to go today. You didn't care. Yeah. But now you're aware, you care about everything and you actually think about everything. So my advice would be that you try not to, look, I'll tell you what's a great book, which if you can try and really stick to these things. It's called The Four Agreements, right? You know it?
I've read it, yeah.
That pretty much sums up life. If you can not take anything personally, do your best, have integrity and be honest. And what was the last one?
Love.
And don't gossip.
Don't gossip.
So if you can do those things, it's easy. They're 4 things you can remember. And just say to yourself, like, I think, when people, my advice would be just minimize your interaction on mobile phones. Use it for what you need it for. And please don't get immersed in other people's worlds, because you'd end up not living your own life. Live your own life. There you go.
I like that.
Live your own life.
I like that.
That's it.
And it's becoming less and less in modern days.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, but hopefully with some of this stuff we're doing, it can become, this circulate, become a circle. People get that. They'll realise that it's not, it does go in cycles. They'll realise that it actually hasn't improved. All they've done is got immersed in this cycle of watching, scrolling or red notifications. It's like, oh God, and you think, oh God, what else is in my life? There's a whole world out there, man, and it's getting easier to get to because of the travel and everything else. You can get everywhere, anywhere you want in the world within 24 hours.
I like it.
Anywhere.
Live your life.
Yeah, live your life. Live your own life. That's it. Live your own life.
We'll finish on that, Brendan. Thank you so much, mate.
Time, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved being able to share. Thank you, mate. Really.
Thank you.